decision to euthanize your pet is incredibly heartbreaking, and it brings a lot of people to their knees.
Part of explaining how to prepare for that day is just letting you know that there is no right or wrong.
The idea of saying goodbye is so important. We don't always get that opportunity, but if we do, being able to say goodbye in a setting, in a way that you want, can really make all the difference for you.
It's one of the few times in our lives where we have to make a life and death decision for someone we so deeply care about, and nobody takes that easily. It's also extremely difficult sitting in that gray area of when is it time, and waiting, every day or every hour, or every minute for some sign that this is the end. That creates what's called an anticipatory grief for people. You're living with your pet, you're living with someone who is still alive, but you know that the end is near, and sometimes your emotional landscape is as if you are grieving for someone that you've lost already. And in some sense you have, because they may not be the pet that you used to have. Your routine isn't the same anymore. You sit there and wonder, when is it time, and am I being cruel? So I think actually one of the first questions that's good is to ask yourself, is this more for me or for them? And be honest with yourself. Keep track of your pet's symptoms. Make a list of what you know is important to your pet. In addition to eating, drinking water, being incontinent, those are all very important things to keep at the top of that list. But also, are they doing the things that make them them? And how does doing those activities relate to their dignity? Get a calendar and put those on the calendar. And as you're going through your days, mark off for each one if it was a good day or bad day for that. And after a few days or a week or two, you might have some information for yourself on what your pet is actually living in terms of quality of life. And if they can't really do more than get out of their bed, then they don't have a good quality of life at that point.
One thing we suggest when trying to maximize the quality of life and your time with your pet during the end is to just try to be as present with them as possible. What that might look like for you is just taking a day off of work or taking the evening to just shut the TV off and just be present with them. Consider what your favorite activities with your pet are, and if they like to go running and they're not able to even walk anymore, maybe you can put them in a stroller and take them for a walk, and that way you can be outside together and just enjoy the fresh air. Coming into the vet with your pet and then leaving without them, it's an experience that people dread, and it's unpredictable how you'll react that day. Part of preparing for that day is just to remember that there is no right or wrong in your response to the death. However emotional you are that day doesn't indicate how much you loved them. However you react that day is completely normal.
In those moments after their pet's euthanized and they've been taken away, people are left sitting there feeling like the world has fallen out from under their feet. I'd say take care of yourself. I think, first of all, if you don't have someone there with you, maybe at least call somebody just to center yourself. Can you drive? Ask yourself, can you drive home? Are you too distracted? Do you need some time?
You're also thinking about who should be around for that beloved pet. Sometimes people make decisions quickly, but other times they want to think about who wants to visit. Perhaps a college student who's away at school, who hasn't had a chance to say goodbye, and waiting a day or two to allow them to come home and do that. That may be a really important decision for your family. People often ask, what about children when you're dealing with end-of-life situations, whether it's a pet that's dying or a pet that is going to be euthanized? And I let the parents know that they're the best judge of their children, and they should make that decision depending on a couple of things. Emotionally, what is the child's emotional developmental level? Just because chronologically they're at a certain age doesn't mean emotionally that they're at that same age. Parents know their children quite well, and obviously honesty is really important when talking with children. Children know when you're being upfront with them, and they can tell the difference. So being honest with them in an age-appropriate way about what is happening with their pet is really important. And if possible, giving children choices is so important at end of life. Explaining to them what's going to happen, perhaps having the veterinarian explain it to them as well, and let them ask questions for the veterinarian, but ultimately giving the child the choice, letting them make a choice of whether they want to be present or not present, and to what level they want to be involved. That really empowers children and makes death less scary and more acceptable, which is something that's going to help them throughout their lives. As well as modeling for them grieving. You're sad, your family's sad, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be very sad because you're losing a loved family member. And so modeling those feelings and not trying to hide them is a really important message for your children. So at our hospital, we give out stuffed animals to children who lose their pet. And that may seem odd or inappropriate, but actually that stuffed animal is what we call a transitional object. The young child can take that animal and hug it when they feel sad or when they miss their own animal. They can talk to that animal, they can play with it, and that's how children really work out their feelings and their grief.
Death is scary and it's difficult and nobody wants it, but at the same time, it is a moment to celebrate life. And if you can get yourself thinking about them in the context of their life with you, it can be a lot more healing than dreading those last moments with them.
And just try to remember that the life that you shared together was a really wonderful gift, and it's important to remember that moving forward.